Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. We've got quarterback Fernando Mendoza. If you have questions for Fernando, go ahead and let us know in the chat and we'll call upon you. We'll go ahead and get started with Jake Curtis from Cal Sports Report.
Yeah, hi, Fernando. How are you a different quarterback now than you were in the days leading up to the Oregon State game?
I would say that I'm an entirely different quarterback, as I've gained a ton of experience playing against two of the top defenses in the Pac-12 with Oregon State and Utah, and just everything, especially going from the practice where we're really kind of formulating the practice to get the starters ready, in a sense, not getting many reps as a third and second string quarterback, to all of a sudden going to game speed reps with Oregon and Utah. I've seen my development, in a sense, expedite and in a sense fast forward, and so I feel a lot more comfortable going to this game than I did the Oregon State game. And as well, it's also helped me a lot from preparing from the Oregon State and Utah game leading up to the USC game. In a way, kind of I know how to manage my schedule with film and manage school now when I'm actually playing, and kind of all those different things. So it's really been more of an experience aspect.
Okay, we'll go to Steve Cronin. We'll keep it to a single question the first time around and entertain follow-ups after that. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Fernando, good afternoon. Kind of following up Jake's question a little bit. Going into the Oregon State game and now through two games, what's one thing about yourself that you thought, you know what, I can play major college football and this reinforces it? Those two games, you know what, I knew this, and I could do this, and I've done it. And what's one thing that, you know what, I didn't realize I needed to be this good and I need to improve?
Yeah, I mean, throughout those two games, although you could say that they were decent games on paper, I mean, the first thing is that we didn't win those games. So my play was not up to par. And the second thing is I realized that watching the film throughout with all the offensive staff coaches, I was like, wow, I could be a lot better. And so that was a very exciting thing, as although it was deemed to have both decent games against Utah and Oregon State, I saw large areas of improvement in different aspects. For example, just processing speed. You see the best quarterbacks in the league and in college football, they go through the progressions lightning fast. And I believe that I am getting through my progressions. However, you could always do it faster. And that just comes with experience and playing. And then also, there's a ton of different keys and kind of things to key on the defense, things that you go through the week and talk about with the offensive staff, Coach Spav and the other offensive staff coaches, and say, oh, you need to, when they're in a bear front, you need to look at this, or et cetera, et cetera. So those are kind of things that I've been more aware of and kind of just growing every day with.
Okay, any others with a first round question before we go back for a second round? Okay, we'll go back to Jake Curtis. Go ahead, Jake.
It's just a little off topic, but I guess you've seen this stuff about sign stealing and stuff. What do you think about the idea of using what the NFL does, is just having the receiver in your helmet and getting signals that way? I
mean, I know Coach Spav has talked to us about this prior to this whole entire investigation. And I think it's a great idea personally, especially as a quarterback, and the sign stealing. And I'm not going to say like anything just controversial. However, it's kind of deemed that a lot of programs have done it in the past. And I think that'd be very beneficial for everyone in college football, especially with all the funding that goes into college football. I don't see any reason that there couldn't be a little bit more allocations of funds just towards the quarterback special helmets. I'm not sure how those helmets specifically operate because I've never worn one before, but I wouldn't see it being any problem. And I see it actually being a lot better for communication and increased offensive play, which is pushed in nowadays college football.
And if I could ask you one other thing. Growing up in Florida, SEC country, ACC country, what were the letters USC? What did those mean to you? Was it Southern California or South Carolina?
So although I lived on the East Coast and in Miami, USC has always been the Trojans as a national program growing up, and just seeing the highlights of Reggie Bush and all those prominent players over there, especially as they were on a prominent scale as just I was getting into college football and watching more and more of it. So I would say that those letters have meant USC, the Trojans. However, no disrespect to the Gamecocks, as one of my best friends, Mike, and the roommate Michael Luckers, both of his brothers do attend the USC South Carolina. So, I mean, they're both great universities and have utmost respect for both of them.
Okay, we'll go to Steve Beck, or we'll go to Steve Crowder. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, first, Fernando, your tact would put you on a political bent. I can tell very quickly. You could be in politics for some time the way you're handling those questions. The question I have specifically for you, and I asked Coach Spav this yesterday, as much as the offense has seemed improved in the last two games since you've been the starter, the one guy whose production has gone significantly down is Jeremiah Hunter. How do you get him back into the flow of the offense?
At the end of the day, Jay Hunt is a super talented player. I believe that he's going to be playing well on from Saturdays and into Sundays. And I've always thought really, really highly of Jeremiah. And in the Oregon State, he definitely had a lot of opportunities. However, personally on my end, I wasn't able to get him the ball. Like the first play, I was throwing an out route to him, and I didn't throw the best throw, hence nerves and just other distractions, that being my real first throw of college football. So I could have definitely gotten the ball more in the Oregon State game. And then Utah, it was a really tough situation. However, Jay Hunt's a great individual and great player, as he really cares. I mean, his number one goal is winning. However, to win, we need to get Jay Hunt the ball more. So I think that those are two things that coincide with each other. And I think that's definitely a learning point moving forward, and how to distribute the balls evenly, but at the same time, not force it, because you don't want to have in your mind predetermined, I want to throw to this guy. And although he's not open in your progression, you're already thinking about it. So naturally you throw to him. So that's something that you want to avoid as well. But he's a great player, and I have all the respect for him. And I think that he's going to get the ball more these upcoming games.
Okay, we'll get back to Jake. Go ahead, Jake.
USC has a much better offense than the first two teams you started against. Do you figure you're going to have to score a lot of points in this game?
At the end of the day, the goal for us is a big picture. I believe that scoring the most points, whether it's 40, 50, 60, or whatever, how many points it is, I think that's probably the first in the priority scale. However, as an offense, our focus is just getting a check mark every single play. As offense staff coaches talk about, all you need to do is do your job on play 1, play 2, and play 20, and etc. So if we do our job and have a check mark every single play, I believe that will put up a lot of points and be efficient. And at the end of the day, if we put up a lot of points and we're efficient, I think we would put ourselves in a really good chance. But we also have, as an offense, we also have a lot of respect. We want to get them every single day, and we just see how our defense handles himself. And so we have a lot of confidence in our defense to hold up against a great offense.
Okay, we'll go to Thomas Dunn from Radford, California.
Good afternoon, Fernando. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the USC defense as a whole. What have you seen from them on film? And I know they get kind of a bad rap when it comes to how people analyze them, but what have you seen? What challenges do they present to you, and where do you feel like you guys can give challenges to them?
But first off, I want to state that I think Coach Grinch is a great defensive coordinator. And although they have had a bad rap in the national media of college football and things, I believe a lot of people overlook how great they are. And I know that people a lot talk about how they give up explosive plays, but they also have, in a sense, explosive plays on defense with a ton of sacks and a lot of tackles for loss. So that's something that you want to minimize as an offense, especially as they do have racked up a lot of sacks and a lot of tackles for loss. So seeing that, as it could be kind of, in a way, explosive on both ends. That's one thing you see with the USC defense, that they're really talented all across the board, and you don't want to give them those plays. But in all, I think they're a pretty good defense.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Matt Moreno with Rivals.
Hey, Fernando. You obviously alluded to it a little bit earlier, going up against Oregon State and Utah, two really talented defenses. Mentioned that kind of maybe fast-tracking you a little bit in your development. How much is that maybe giving you some confidence as you face a team like USC, and then you have Oregon coming up next, to be like, I know what to expect. You're not going to maybe be flustered as maybe if you had played some other teams or some other defenses that weren't as good as the last two you faced?
Yeah. So my philosophy is in kind of everything, whether it's, especially in this case, football, and everyone always wants to, especially with young quarterbacks, they want to ease them in by getting them reps, kind of garbage time reps and then getting them into lower competition games and then putting them into the fire. However, I think the best way to develop someone is just pushing them into the fire. And I think for me, that's the case. And I believe that it was great to be pushed in against two of these top defenses, Oregon State and Utah, to then now go against the road against two more ranked opponents, USC and Oregon. So I think it presents itself a great challenge. And I agree with you saying, maybe the Oregon State game, in the beginning of the game, I was a tad flustered. But now going back from the Utah game, which has a great crowd, they had a great join of the crowd. And I'd say it was really loud over there. So going from those two experiences, a home experience and an away experience at I'd say a hostile environment, it's great to kind of take that and experience and going on to these next two ranked games that I think we have an amazing shot at winning.